Hello, Mary Beth. Hello, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Are you able to share your screen?
That says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let's see, let me make sure that you are. How about now?
There we go.
Perfect. Okay, your sound is good and I can see your screen just fine.
Perfect.
Okay. Do you have a poll that you will be conducting during your presentation?
I don't know, and I have not heard back from Kirk. He would probably have it. Yet I know that Mary Beth said she wanted had a resolution she wanted. So, and I don't have any information on that. So sorry.
Okay, no problem. What I'll do is I'm going to read a brief introduction and just kind of go over the Zoom interface with the participants, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, so we'll give participants just a minute or so to log on.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Economic Development Committee meeting. My name is Delina Mobley. I am from Kaufman and Associates and will be assisting the co-chair today. Please enter your questions into the chat box located at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Please follow the chair's instructions for resolution voting. All phone lines and computer lines have been muted. If you need technical assistance during the session, please type the issue into the chat box and one of our techs will respond to you. Please note that this session is being recorded. Please take it away, Chair.
Morning, everyone. I guess I'm chairing this committee now. And I have not seen Kirk log on. Is Kirk on the call? Okay, and this is the Transportation Committee meeting, correct? Okay. Okay, and I am absolutely clueless as to what Kirk had in mind to go over in this meeting. I don't have an agenda or anything. I know that Mary Beth, you said you had a resolution you wanted to put forward. Is that correct? You're on mute. Sorry, I still can't hear you. Oops. Is that better? I can't hear you. Nope. All right, I clicked a button. Try and unmute yourself now, Mary Beth. Still cannot hear you, no. I'll send a text or a message to the support. Okay, I sent a message to the host, so hopefully we can pop on here and unmute you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We can hear you, John.
Okay, John George, I'm the Tribal Council Secretary for Grand Ronde. And I'm also the executive, on the ATNI Executive Board, to third Vice President.
Excellent. We're working through some technical difficulties, trying to unmute a participant.
Okay.
Good morning, this is Amber Schultz Oliver with ATNI EDC.
Morning, Amber. My name is Tom Dietz. I'm with the Stillaguamish tribe and a newly appointed, I guess, co-chair of the Transportation Committee.
If you guys like, I have kind of a draft agenda that I put together. I can put it up on the screen, or we can just wait for other folks to call in.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're still waiting for Mary Beth to be able to unmute herself. Morning, Kirk.
It looks like I'm not able to share the screen, so I'll put something in the chat to ask if I can get permissions to do that.
Okay.
Oh, did you call Marysville Toyota yesterday? Did you see how I got down there? I'll call.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know, Amber, if if Delana has to do that. I don't see a button where I can to do that. Okay. Mary Beth, can you try your unmute again, please?
Okay, so I made Amber a co-host and she should be able to share her screen.
Okay. And is there a way we can get folks to be able to unmute themselves?
Yes, they should be able to. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Perfect. There's that. Because we can't hear Mary Beth right now.
Okay, let's see. I'm not sure. She should be able to unmute herself, and from my side, she is unmuted.
Kirk, are you able to unmute yourself? We might as well try that too. No, can't hear you.
Okay, let's see. Okay. So participants should be able to unmute themselves.
Yeah, we're not having a whole lot of luck with that. We can hear John and we can hear Amber.
Mary Beth, I think you can, although actually you can usually call in, but they don't seem to have that posted. But it's a Zoom platform, so we can find a Zoom number and you might be able to.
I will post I'm the moderator and I will post the number now. Just 1 second, please.
Thank you.
No problem.
Elena, it looks like there's other folks on the chat that are unable to unmute themselves. And I also just wanted to ask if folks can see my screen. It doesn't have a little green line around the screen when like it normally does when I'm trying to share it.
Yes, if you've got the committee agenda up there, I can see it.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can see it, Amber. This is John.
Testing sound. This is Danae Wilson.
Hi, Danae, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Mary Beth, you may want to try now. It looks like it finally caught up to the.
Oh, I see connecting to audio on folks' picture, so if we can do a check on that.
Yes, I can see that Mary Beth is connecting to audio, and that may be an issue external to the Zoom interface.
Amber, I think you're first on the agenda, are you not?
Yeah, I am. I was just gonna wait a couple more minutes. I think it's also a good idea if folks just put into the chat their names and their affiliations, and that way we can capture that for as a sign-in. So maybe while we're waiting, people can just put in their information in the chat. And if you're calling in and unable to see the chat, let us know, and we'll try and make a mark of your presence here today. All right, well, I can go ahead and get started. I'm sure that there's probably going to be a few more folks that call in. I may want to circle back around just depending on if we get a lot more folks and just kind of do a brief update if we have time. But it's already quarter after. We have about 2 hours and quite a few folks that would that have stuff to say. So thank you everybody for being here today. I'm going to keep my camera off for right now just because my internet is deciding to be a little jumpy. So I'm going to try and not use it as much as I need to. So let's see here. We have a joint meeting today. This is the Economic Development Committee meeting, and we also have Telecom and Technology. And I looked at the agenda. It looks like Telecom and Technology Committee is also going to be meeting again at the end of the day. I know that there was an extra slot there. We also have the Transportation Committee, the Taxation Committee, which is a subcommittee of Economic Development, and the Philanthropy Committee, which is also a subcommittee of Economic Development. I have SBA programs, and I did talk to Carrie Hurd, and now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I actually ever sent her information to register. It was kind of a crazy week last week. So I can try and touch base with her and see if she would be able to join us. But I kind of dropped the ball on that one. I apologize. And finally, towards the end of the meeting, I know that a lot of us have some things on our mind, some stuff that we want to get off of our chest for the good of the order. So we're going to have kind of an open discussion with whoever's on the line to talk about whatever you want to talk
On
about.
the economic and transportation and subcommittee taxation, a breakout session.
Hey, John, I hear you.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was on mute.
No worries. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I just want to provide a couple of updates. I see the ATNI EDC President Dave Tubby is on, so I wouldn't mind if he would also jump in if he has anything else to add. I did email the Economic Development co-chairs, Antone. Looks like he wasn't able to register for this conference. And I haven't been able to hear back from Mike Marchand. So I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to join us here today or not. But I just want to give a little bit of an update of what we've been doing over at ATNI EDC to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. We've really been doubling down with our loan program and supporting small businesses through this really confusing time. We got some funds from the Oregon Small Business Stabilization Fund, which was a fund that was comprised of state and philanthropic resources. And we were able to distribute $93,000 to 63 small businesses, small native-owned businesses operating in the state of Oregon. I see Amber Faced and James are on the line. ONAC was instrumental, Oregon Native American Chamber was instrumental in helping us with that process, helped with the application review committee, helped us put the process in place to make sure that it was fair and that we could reach as many Oregon native-owned businesses as possible. So we just closed that up. The application close date was June 1st. We were able to distribute all of the funds that we had available for that process. We have since moved on. We now are still working with the state of Oregon. They are distributing grants to small businesses that are fewer than 25 employees. And we've been selected to help get some of those dollars out the door. So we're going to work on touching base with native-owned Oregon small businesses to make sure that they're aware of that program and try and get some more dollars out to support native-owned businesses. And again, those are just state of Oregon just because of the funding source. We'd like to try and extend the Forgivable Loan Fund program to the greater ATNI region, but we just need funds to be able to do that. And then finally, we don't have confirmation of funds yet, but we are hoping to get some Economic Development Administration dollars to help us hire a small business and technical assistance outreach coordinator and to seed an emergency loan fund that would be offered at a really low interest rate with no payments due for, I believe it's the first 6 months. So once we get more information about that, we will get that out to the ATNI membership. If you're interested at all about what we're doing and the loans, you can take a look. I'll paste the URL into the chat so folks can take a look at that. We also send out information through our blog on our website, which also goes to Facebook page. And then we also work on trying to reach out to tribes directly. So Dave, do you have anything that you want to add into that? Oh, I think that Dave is saying he can't talk. I think that's what that hand gesture meant. So I'm trying to think if there's any.
I'm unmuted now.
Oh, there you are.
The host had me blocked out, which is probably not a bad
Probably not a bad thing.
Means, no. Well, welcome everybody. We're glad you're able to make time to join us. I think one of the things we like to do periodically at ATNI, with the ATNI Economic Development Committee, is circle up with some of the committees that found their original home with us and got to where their interests and their agenda items and programs became too much for us to handle, and they spun off and formed separate committees or subcommittees. But I think that's been pretty effective. With all these various committees listed here, as well as even part of natural resources, which was land that found its home here originally. I think also the human resources group too. And, I think that's been one of the sources of pride for the Economic Development Committee to at least provide an original platform for some of these groups to have those conversations that are important to tribes and tribal communities, and then not have such a controlling interest or ownership that they, when they feel like they can spin off and then they go and do the wonderful things. And looking at this list of committees, telecom, communications, transportation, taxation, I mean, they've just all flown like, unbelievably. So for us, it's just kind of fun to catch up and see how everybody else is doing and seeing if there's ways we can help each other in any way. So I think that does it for me. I know Anton and Marchand are pretty good, but they're probably not as much of the neo-maxi Zoom dweeby that I've become here with this new way of communicating with everybody. So, but we'll look for them to join us as soon as we can and get a real speech for you. So thanks, everybody.
Great, thank you, Dave. And so with that, I think we're pretty close to back on schedule. And I'm going to turn it over to Crystal and Danae for the ATNI Telecom and Technology Committee update. Danae, are you still there? It looks like you're on mute. Danae Wilson? I think you just muted yourself again. There you are.
There she is.
No, yeah, okay, good. I got a message saying the host muted me again, and then it came up and said host unmuted me, so sorry about that. So really, I only want to take a short amount of time today, and so I won't take my full minutes and surrender those to the next presentation because we have some really good things on our agenda. But today at 3, we'll be doing applications for 2.5, and hopefully tomorrow. Today we will have MuralNet come on, and Tribal 2.5, 2 companies who have funding from various agencies who are doing the physical applications, helping you walk through the application process. So they will be doing one-on-ones with tribes. We'll be setting up individual sessions for them, but we'll have a presentation on what that application looks like and how to file. The deadline is August 3rd. And then hopefully tomorrow, if it works out, we'll have ISOC and MuralNet available to do one-on-ones with tribes in the afternoon. I've put in a request to come in after the tribal leadership discussions and to see if we can do more applications. And so if you know a tribe, if your tribe wants to apply for the 2.5 spectrum, that application window closes August 3rd. So we really need to work diligently to get tribal applications submitted. And we have 3 entities on standby, ready to help tribes get their applications in. That's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Danae. So do you know about how many ATNI tribes have already applied? I know last time I looked, it was just a handful.
Yeah, there's the total count today. I went out and checked this morning. There are 58 tribes, 58 applications. Some tribes are applying multiple applications. So as an example, Seminole has 3 applications in. For every channel, they submitted a separate application. Some tribes have more than 1 application in. There are still only a handful of ATNI tribes. We do have a handful of Alaska tribes who have applied, but we would really, really like to help ATNI tribes get their applications completed. And all 3 entities, ISOC, Tribal 2.5, MuralNet, all 3 of them are doing those for free. They do your help you get from start to finish. So they help you file all your documents. They tell you what documents you need, I guess, is the start. They go over the map with you and they show you how to do the application for the spectrum that's available over your reservations. It really is a sovereignty. You want to own the air, control the airwaves over your reservation, and this is your opportunity to do that. It is a natural resource. There is a very limited availability of spectrum over reservations, so it's really important that we take it serious and we make an effort to complete our applications for the 2.5.
Awesome, thank you. I hope to see those numbers grow from the ATNI tribes. I think you're absolutely right. It's a resource, and everything I've heard is there aren't any real detractors from applying. It's just it's an asset to
That's right. And you have 2 years to build out, and many of the entities have free engineering that they can give you to help build off of. So you have 2 years once the window closes to build out to your populated areas, and you only need to reach 80%. So I'm from Nez Perce, and so if we're talking about 80% of our tribal population, that's in the Lapwai community. And so we could hit one community and hit 80% of our populated area and meet the requirements under 2.5. Then that gives me the rest of the time to meet the rest of the reservation. So, but we do have free help available for any tribe that wants to apply.
Awesome. So your presentation, you're going to have one later on today, and then did you also say tomorrow as well?
Yeah, I've put in a request to James to have an open session after the Tribal Leadership Roundtable. So if we're approved for that, then we'll have a 1-hour session tomorrow earlier in the day to try to pick up a few more tribes. But today at 3, we'll be going over how to do those applications. Both MuralNet and ISOC will be available. Tribal 2.5 will be on, and we really are trying to help tribes be ready, set, go to get their application, and they'll actually do the filing for you. So you don't even have to, you just have to provide the documentation, and they'll help do the filing for you. So tomorrow, ISOC and MuralNet, if we get the room, are both prepared to stay with us and do more applications tomorrow.
Awesome.
Danae, real quick, Dave Tubby here. In Oregon, we had a presentation, and as they talked about the process and securing those rights, they also explained that this airspace could be leased to other carriers too. If there was some anxiety about the tribe being able to manage that or doing the build out in 2 years, is that the case?
That is the case, and so many of the companies that you'll be talking to, MuralNet, Tribal 2.5, ISOC, they have partners who may be interested in helping develop your lands. And so the intent of all of them isn't to lock you into a long-term contract with, say, Sprint or Verizon, even though they are interested, but it is to give you options. So if Sprint is interested in your area, or Verizon is your provider, AT&T, then we help ISOC, Tribal 2.5, MuralNet, they'll help determine which is the best fit for you and ensure that that contract reads in your favor. So so then they'll provide assistance for that. We're really excited about this opportunity, and even if you aren't interested in becoming your own ISP or wireless internet provider or a landline internet provider, whatever there are truly options to move forward with a provider and to lease that spectrum. It is extremely valuable.
Is there anything we can do to help you get the word out through our website or?
Yes, if you, I can send you some links if you want to put them up, links to MirrorNet, to Tribal 2.5, and to ISOC. We would be glad to do that. If you haven't already applied and you know your tribe hasn't applied yet, or your sister tribes, people you work with every day, haven't applied yet, that application, that's public information. So as soon as the tribe applies, it goes up on the website. But if I get a name and an email address and a telephone number, you bet we'll be calling all of those individuals. So you give me who you think will be open to that, and I'll be glad to do the footwork and get the applications going.
Awesome. Is there any other questions for Danae? I'm trying to take a look at the chat and I don't see anything in there. If anybody does have any questions, go ahead and type it in the chat if you're unable to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
And also, just as a reminder, if you wouldn't mind putting in your name and your organization into the chat so that we have a record of who's attending this meeting today. Next up, we are going to have the Transportation Committee provide updates. Right now I have Kirk Vinish there. I know that Mary Beth is also on the Transportation Committee, and as I understand, there's one more new, Tom Dietz is also a new co-chair. So I'm just going to turn it over to you three for the transportation.
Can you hear me yet?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Oh, wow, I'm on the phone part.
Okay, would you like a brief update?
Tom or Kurt, you guys can start?
We didn't quite catch that last statement.
I was just asking if you and Tom were going to start out.
Okay, I can give you just a brief update on what's going on in transportation. If you would listen to the general session yesterday, they gave you sort of the congressional calendar, and transportation is on the calendar for later this summer. We're getting worried that it's going to bump up against electioneering, basically. And in talking with folks in DC, they mentioned that. So I'm just going to give you some highlights from the tribal section, not the whole bill, because the bill's too big to get into all of that. One thing that they're moving towards, which we've been asking for some time, is really if you want to have a proportionate amount of funding for tribal transportation, it should be about $2 billion a year, but they don't do that. And for the first time, we're seeing a total boost to the transportation spending for the tribal section at $1 billion a year, which is still good. That's very good news. There's for COVID recovery in transportation, there's $83.1 billion to help tribes, states, and cities to advance projects and preserve jobs in the aftermath of the 2019 COVID crisis. So hopefully folks are taking account of that and thinking about how they can apply that. In the overall investment in highways, there's $750 million for tribes and formula funds per year. That's nearly a 70% increase over current levels. The tribal transportation program increases funding levels for the TTP program to about $800 million per year for the program out of the Highway Trust Fund. And it expands eligibility under the Tribal Transportation Bridge Program to allow construction of new bridges. And then under Federal Lands and Tribal Major Projects Program, if you're familiar with that, there's about $400 million per year that requires a 50-50 split of grant funds among the tribes and federal lands agencies. And it does provide more flexibility through a smaller project, though, for smaller projects, which will be nice to have that kind of flexibility as you go forward. They are funding the high priority project program, which many have advocated for in the past. That's $50 million per year on a discretionary basis. Grants have a maximum of $5 million for high priority projects whose annual apportionment is insufficient. And it does provide some emergency relief for tribes who can't access the ER funds and the funds the program has out of the HTF funding. It establishes the Office of Tribal Government Affairs and establishes the Office of Tribal Government within the DOT and creates a new Assistant Secretary for Tribal Government Petitions. So that's very exciting. We're looking forward to that. That's the most I have. You know, it's a high level summary, but I think it kind of gets you to where we're at. I haven't heard any interest in reopening the inventory issue, which has been plaguing Indian country for a while. Some people feel it's very unfair how it's worked out, but nevertheless, that's where we're at. And maybe Mary Beth, you have something to add to that? I don't know.
Yes, I do. ITA and other organizations around the United States, they have wrote in and to support the Invest in America Act by the House of Transportation Infrastructure from Chairman Pete DePazio and Chair Eleanor Norton. And that Invest Act has pretty much about 90% of the Northwest needs that we discussed for a year and a half. One of the great elements in it too is not only raising the TTP funds, is that it is requesting the exemption of the obligation limitation, which means, you know, 50 to whatever million a year that goes back to the tribes instead of them taking and sweeping that out at a 10%, pretty much a 10% each year. So that is really good. They just started talking about that on the 17th of this month. And then a new bill came out from a different, I'm not a politician, but one of them other houses. And it's very robust, and it includes not only transportation, it includes the whole 9 yards of infrastructure, which is IT, public water system, everything. And so they're really saying that one's too much of a huge, and includes everything, catch-all, big projects that they don't believe it's going to go anywhere, but they're looking at it now. But right now, I do know ITA supported, with a letter only, supported the Invest movement. It's called Invest in America Act. And right now they do believe, we had a TTPCC meeting yesterday, call, and Aaron Kinley mentioned that they're trying to get something done for the transportation bill by the deadline. However, the programs believe that we will be on a continuing resolution. Also, on a side note too, Leroy Gacy mentioned, I asked about the RFAs, or your FY 2020 funding for TTP program, that a lot of tribes are still pending on getting their FY 2020. And there is a holdup in DC area because everyone was not set up for electronic signatures, and so they're catching up. They did 190 last. There was 190 left, and there was they did 140 last week, and the rest this week they're hoping to get done. So tribes will look forward to getting their funding. So pretty much that's what we learned.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mary Beth. Appreciate you filling in all the holes from what I said. But what the CR issue was what I had heard also, that as much as we like the bill, it's in its current form, given what's happening in DC, they just may not get to it. But we'll see. I mean, we could be made ever hopeful. Sometimes things just happen really fast and we don't expect it, but it's good that we have ongoing movement And I appreciate ITA's letter. That's great. So that's all we have. Is there any questions?
My question is should ATNI forward a letter of support for the invest or a resolution? But as yesterday morning when Brian Gunn was on the ATNI virtual meeting here, he had mentioned that because of the COVID and conferences are being by virtual and things like that, this is the time that regional organizations and such for tribes need to make sure their voices are heard and to submit something so that they know that Congress and them know that we're still here and we're still have a big need. So that's my question on the direction to should ATNI shoot a letter out, or is it like a form of a resolution? I don't know.
I think we have a resolution. What would be kind of nice, though, I like your idea that we draft a letter for the president's signature, ATNI president's signature, and then attach the resolution to it, and then we could get it off. That'd be delightful to do it that way. I assume we're doing resolutions. Sharon, do you know?
So how ATNI, and I see Sharon and both John, who are both on the ATNI Executive Committee, are on the line, so they may be able to provide more information. But as I understand, we are, because we have a condensed time, they were hoping to get advanced copies of those resolutions. But I don't think that, especially if you have something that's already drafted for the committee to take a look at and review and vote on, I believe that those should be able to be considered. Sharon or John, do you have any additional information to that?
Well, it is my understanding that tomorrow there will be, resolutions considered, and I believe that the ATNI staff met with committee chairs to discuss that process about having the resolutions in and the type of format and how those were going to be considered. I didn't attend the committee chair meeting, so I'm not quite sure what was told to them. So, but yes, resolutions will be considered tomorrow.
Well, I misspoke. What I should have said is we have a resolution from our last ATNI session. What we need now is a letter to be signed by the president to introduce the resolution and to say, yes, we support the Invest in America Act. And then we could attach what we already have done. So we just want the president to sign a letter. Can we write a letter today and forward it on to you, Sharon, and get it signed, or how does that work?
I think that's a good idea, is to draft the letter for Chairman Forsman's signature. And the executive board will take a look at it and consider, whether or not to sign. But I would suggest that Amber, you take the letter and present it to Terry.
Okay.
So she presents it to the board.
I love that. Okay. Amber, can I send that to you?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Kirk, are you going to be around tomorrow? I believe resolutions are going to be considered tomorrow from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Are you going to be available to participate in that, speak to the letter?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Then go ahead and send it to me and I'll work on making sure that Terry sees it before then.
Do you have a email address I can send it to?
Put it in the chat box right now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh, there you are. My goodness.
Does anybody else have any questions for the Transportation Committee?
Can I make some announcement?
Absolutely. This is your time.
Okay. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but I am the ITA, Intertribal Transportation Association's president. We are planning an annual meeting, and I'm trying to get our membership back up to where it was at. It started pretty much in Northwest, but our annual meeting is scheduled for October 13th, 14th, and 15th, and I'm having it scheduled there. Right now, it's a soft schedule because they're not open yet, but at the National Museum of American Indians there in DC. And that way we can move over to the Hill too on one of those days. But that's where the meeting will be, at the annual ITA meeting in October. That was my spiel.
Can I make a quick announcement? This is Margot. Can you hear me? Okay, so 2 quick announcements. July 29th, TRB, the tribal section, we're working with Ron Hall. We're going to have a national webinar, Murdered, Missing Indigenous Women and Human Trafficking. That's July 29th, and announcements will go out on that. And we're also working with America Walks on August 12th. We're going to do our second part in a series called Walking Towards Justice in Indian Country. And we have U.S. Congresswoman Deborah Haaland that is going to be joining us on Murdered, Missing Indigenous Women and Safety and Transportation. We have Professor Laura Harjo. We also have author Jessica McDermott on Highway of Tears. So that will be also an announcement that we'll try to get out. That's August 12th. I think that starts at 2 o'clock with America Walks, Walking Towards Justice Indian Country. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. So I'm going to move on the agenda if we don't have any other questions for the Transportation Committee. So next up we have Taxation Committee, but I don't see Henry on right now. Does anybody have any updates from Taxation?
No, Henry.
I do not see him on the Zoom call right now.
This is Antone. I just got on.
Thanks, Antone.
Antone.
Have some time here.
I worked all morning to make it.
Well, we're glad you're
trying to plug in on my computer, and it took me an hour to do that.
Well, we're moving through the agenda pretty quickly. I know after Henry we have philanthropy, and I just got a message from Cleora that she's having trouble getting in, so I'm going to try and send her a link. But Anton, if you have anything that you want to share with us, this would be a really good time to do it.
Well, just some comments. Is Dave tell me, did he make it?
Yep, I'm on.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, did you update on where the tribe is with their economic development, or the building of the bowling alley, and that's going to be completed in what, September?
Should be done. They're a little ahead of
project,
schedule.
The tribe is moving really right along, and it's tore down a lot of buildings and old buildings and removed them. But the Umatilla tribe is moving along. But I would like to see more on the table, probably regionally as well as tribe, USDA programs and land restoration, land acquisition. Because we need a stronger strategy overall. I think we're in a really good position to begin restoring the land and using the win-win strategy with the non-Indian communities, and because of the impact that Umatilla tribe has in its region, it benefits everybody there, and I think that the tribe can leverage a lot with its treaty rights, but it's something that we probably need to discuss more. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Anton.
That's all, Amber.
Thank you, Anton. just to let everyone know, we're really moving through this agenda. So I think there should be plenty of time towards the end for open comments and discussion. So I'll see if we can try and get people unmuted for that, but I'll also take a look at the chat box. And if you're unable to unmute, then we can try and have a discussion with me reading your questions and comments. So I still don't see Henry there, and if I see him pop on, we'll make some time for him to provide a taxation update. But I did see that Cleora was just able to join us. So Cleora, do you want to give us an update on philanthropy? And you're on mute, Cleora.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cleora Scott. I'm a member of the Crow Tribe, and I serve as the Executive Director for Potlatch Fund in Seattle. I wanted to give just a little brief update. I know there's a history on where Potlatch came to ATNI and had asked for a convening of philanthropists, Native philanthropists in Indian country in the Northwest to find a space to have regular convenings. And I have recently come on in this role in October, wasn't a part of that inception. And since coming on, I have attended ATNI where there was a convening of philanthropists and those that work in Native philanthropy at the last ATNI. As the committee goes, my understanding was that this wasn't a committee meeting, this wasn't a subcommittee meeting, but that at that time there was quite a few folks in the room that came from foundations specific to tribes and their gaming contributions, their charitable contribution funds that were present at the meeting. And at that meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion around just efforts to indigenize philanthropy and also to identify what are the needs that many of us were finding ourselves in regards to the philanthropic sector. And I know that to date, there have been quite a few convenings of which many of us participate on. Potlatch Fund for one, MRG, Seattle Edmo has created a convening of more of the mainstream philanthropists and representatives from organizations such as Pride Foundation and other sister organizations outside specifically Native organizations. The needs of Native philanthropy. To date, I should share and let you know that currently there isn't a leader that's at the helm of that work. There are these caucuses, as you will, of philanthropy happening. And to date, as I understand it, in a bit of research, is that there currently doesn't exist a committee chair or any leadership in regard to philanthropy at that level. But there is this work that's happening. And this could be a space that, the work of those that are out there, updates could be made from what is happening in these various places. To date, I want to say I'm aware of at least 3 to 5 just various convenings of philanthropists coming together, and many of us are holding space for our Native American communities. But that's just a really quick update. As I mentioned, I'm fairly new in my position, and I'm really just kind of getting the lay of the land. And I'm hoping that at some point in some time we could find the leadership that we need to kind of culminate and be a clearinghouse of the information of what is occurring. But as it sits right now, we are just keeping in touch with each other as we sit on these various collectives. So thank you. And any questions?
No, thanks, Cleora. I was just going to try and give a little context about the philanthropy subcommittee under ATNI. So that was formed, I'm trying to remember what year. I believe it was the mid-year of maybe 2017. I think we were in Spokane when it happened. And that was before Potlatch had recently undergone some leadership transition. And the folks that were leading that effort were Dana, the former executive director, and then Robin Saigo from Suquamish Foundation. So, but I think since then, there's just been a lot of different transitions. The committee itself, I don't really know what happened, but it seemed like there was some troubles with it meeting towards the beginning there. So I think it's still officially formed, but I don't believe there's an official co-chair. So thank you, Cleora, for stepping in and holding that space for right now. I think once we're able to meet again in person, trying to breathe some energy back into that committee is going to be important, because I think it's a really important sector to have representation at ATNI.
Amber, it's Antone. When the philanthropy was an issue way back when, that's how got the Potlatch Fund got started, because they were saying that tribes got maybe not even 1% of philanthropy money. And so that's how Potlatch Fund got started. And it actually had some held workshops on how to deal with philanthropy funding, how to do that. They had workshops way back in the early days. But I think it's probably something that we really need to get a handle on, so that tribes, tribal programs have opportunity to use that. That's all.
Thanks, Antone.
Your comment on that?
I'd want to mention one thing. I think a lot of our tribal foundations, our giving arms tend to be promotional and PR functions for tribal government or the casinos, which is good, and that needs to be done. But I think the more you can get those entities to the table, just to see processes and methods of giving and how to give, and the professionalism that I've always seen with foundation program officers, I think is a real positive thing, and especially with Potlatch being kind of that regional organization that can kind of loop everybody in. So I think you guys are on a good trajectory.
And there's certainly strong ties between Potlatch Fund and ATNI. Both Antone and I are on the board of Potlatch Fund, so there's definitely some good connections there.
Thank you for those comments.
Does anybody have any other questions about philanthropy or comments, or any questions for Cleora? Okay, and I still don't see Henry on.
I did want to just really quick, Amber, make a pitch for Potlatch. We're in the midst of our strategic planning process, and we are reaching out to leadership and individuals such as yourself to participate in an interview as we are looking at our programming and our needs. Of course, we have Antone there, and he will be part of the process. I may be circling around to you, Dave, and ask if you might be willing to give us some feedback around our questions and how we might be able to expand our programming more. And there will be an invitation that will be going out soon. So if anyone is specifically interested, feel free to contact me. I'll leave my contact information in the chat box. But yes, we are right in the midst of some exciting strategic planning processes right now. So thank you.
Thanks, Cleora. And I just want to say that we're absolutely elated that you're at the helm to take Potlatch Fund to that next level. So I'm so glad that you're here with us.
Dave Santone, I think it's probably a good idea to get Umatilla more involved, because a lot of the previous staff that worked with Potlatch are gone. They left. John Chess was one of the great leaders for Potlatch. So we'd appreciate your participation. That's all.
Thanks, Antone. So just going back to the agenda, as I said at the beginning of this meeting, I had invited Carrie Hurd to participate to give an update on SBA programs, and she had accepted, and then I never actually followed up to tell her when it was or how to get on. So I dropped the ball on that. I apologize. I did half the work, but I didn't actually carry it all home. So I'm not sure if she's going to be able to join us. I did moderate a panel with her and Ernie Rasmussen, from the tribal liaison from the Washington State Department of Commerce. And SBA does have some really great programs going on. One that she was talking about is a pilot program on how to get tribal fishermen access to the PPP. And once we're able to learn about the outcomes from that, you know, some of the, you know, what worked and what didn't, we'll definitely find ways to share that with the greater group. But SBA has been a great partner. They've been really easy for us to work with and to get a hold of. And I really wish I would have, that wasn't the thing that dropped last week, but it was. And if I still don't see Henry on to provide an update on taxation. So with that, I'd just like to open up the meeting. And if there's anything that folks want to talk about that we haven't talked about, just kind of get some stuff off your chest, talk about what kind of economic impacts have been happening to you or your communities because of COVID, then please, the floor is yours.
This is Phil Hardy from Cowlitz. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi Phil.
Hi, I want to thank everybody for, I got on a little bit late here. I also want to thank our good friends from Umatilla. And I just want to also put a shout out for Cleora. It's great to see you. I'm glad you're working, and keep up the all of you keep up the great work in Indian country. And have we gotten a hold of Henry at all? I was hoping to hear from him. So, Kagi?
I'll send him a quick note with the link and see if he's able to jump on, but I haven't seen him yet. So I'll make sure I do that right now.
Thank you very much.
Amber, I can reach out to him.
Okay, thanks, Cleora.
Yep.
Yeah, we texted him. This is James. So we've texted Henry the link and let him know that you know, he has agenda time. So hopefully he'll be able to join us shortly.
Amber, this is Sharon. I missed the introduction of the meeting, but did you give an opportunity to explain where Economic Development Corporation is going, as well as financial services, in the sense of our offerings for EDC, our planning, and our revolving loan fund program?
Yeah, Sharon, and I did say that while we were waiting for other folks to come on, that I might kind of review that once there were more folks on. So I'm happy to do that right now. So in response to COVID, ATNI EDC, which is the economic development body of ATNI, sister organization, we have a, well, we just completed our comprehensive economic development strategy last fall that was accepted by the ATNI membership at the ATNI convention last October. And that's since been accepted by the EDA. So we do have that as our guiding document to perform strategic planning within the organization. So we were planning on doing that this year. We were on track until this whole COVID-19 thing hit. So that's kind of, you know, we've kind of put the brakes on that just to be able to focus our efforts on other, well, on the immediate needs, and to try and work on getting a strategic planning process together where, at least in the beginning, it's going to be important for us to all be in the room together. We're still moving forward on that. It's going a little bit slower, but the comprehensive economic development strategy will guide how we build ATNI EDC and what kind of programming we build into it. We have had our long-running program, the Revolving Loan Fund. We're a certified CDFI, and during this time of COVID, we've really been focusing on supporting Native-owned small businesses. Most of that work has been taking place mostly in Oregon, and that just really has to do more with funding sources than anything else. We were able to distribute $93,000 in the form of forgivable loans to 63 businesses in the state of Oregon. That application period was only open for 40 days, and we got 63 applications, and we were able to fund all of them at meaningful levels. We had support from Oregon Native American Chamber and the Native American Youth and Family Center on that process. What we're looking at now is we're helping the state of Oregon distribute some of their grant funds to small businesses. We've been allocated so far $185,000, and we just opened up that process yesterday. I'll be sending emails out to the Oregon tribes and Oregon small businesses later on today. But if you're interested, I'll put the link in the chat box, but we do have some information up on our website about that. And then finally, we're waiting to hear confirmation, but we are hoping to get funds from the Economic Development Administration. One set to hire a small business and technical assistance outreach coordinator, and then some other funds that would seed an emergency loan fund that would be open to all businesses in the ATNI region, all Native-owned businesses in the ATNI region, that would be offered at a very low interest rate, and no payments would be due for, I believe it's the first 6 months. I'd have to go back and take a look at what that looks like. But that program isn't rolled out yet. We're waiting for confirmation of funds before we're able to roll that out. But I will definitely keep all that information up to date on our website, and I will put that in the chat box. Sharon or Dave, was there anything, or Anton, is there anything that you want to add to that update?
You know, I think the one thing that was a pleasant surprise is the number of Indian-owned small businesses in Oregon that many of which we weren't even aware of. So I think you know, all of us, I think, are trying to build out good business directories. You know, ONAC and others, ONABN, other, you know, but I think when you put money on the table and give people to respond, you know, I think that's going to be a valuable database for us for continued outreach, and some of these other resources are being secured. The other thing that I think is important to us is that even though it's Oregon-based, and we connected well with the Business Oregon and foundations and other supporters here, we kind of built out the model. And I think it's really important to the ATNI EDC to make sure this model gets out into Washington, Idaho, and the rest of the ATNI region too as fast as we can. So, you know, I think those are the 2 points I want to make.
Amber, is the the ATNI newsletter or newspaper from the economic development, is that moving right along? I think that's a really a powerful instrument for coordination for ATNI. All these things that are going on right now, and letting the tribes know where ATNI is at. And so when the pandemic begins to settle down, that we're ready to go, because we have the understanding or news of the history or what's happening to us right now. Is the newsletter okay?
So I usually do the newsletter with the ATNI conventions, and I fully intended to do that for this convention as well. What I didn't expect was that my last week was going to be pretty wacky. It was pretty wacky, and there were a couple of things that dropped, and that was one of them. I do plan on putting together sort of a quick newsletter, maybe in the form of a blog. So I do think that communication piece is really important, and I think it'll be shorter than what we usually see, but I think it's important that folks know what we're up to, what we're offering, and how to get a hold of us. So I think that's a good suggestion.
And I also think probably we should talk about that strategically, and to see how we can build it up and make it a powerful instrument, news instrument, and to get the staffing and funding for that. That's all.
Thank you, Anton. So I'm still not seeing Henry, so, and I'm gonna come over here. It doesn't look like anybody's added anything to the chat box that I can see. Is there anything that anybody just wants to talk about during this committee meeting, especially that's economic development or transportation or philanthropy related or telecommunications related?
Repeat that last question. I had to switch from my phone to the computer here. You were asking something about an update from telecom?
Oh, we already had our update from telecom. I was just asking, so what we have on the agenda now is roundtable. And so I'm just asking if there's anything that folks want to talk about. James, if you want to give an update on what ONAC is doing through this process, I think this would be a great time to do it. But just, this is just a space for people to be able to talk about things that they want to bring to the committee, or maybe talk about some of the questions or concerns they might have around economic development related issues.
Fantastic. I'll start by following up on Danae's request for time for the 2.5 spectrum application. We're going to provide an update via email today and let people know that it'll be added to the agenda after the General Assembly tomorrow. We wholeheartedly understand how important this is to uphold and strengthen tribal sovereignty, and making sure that that session happens and that tribes have the opportunity to really take control over the space above the reservation as well. So I'm excited to provide that update. And just in terms of, if I switch hats and put my ONAC hat on, I really want to say how important it is and critical that ATNI EDC exists as an organization, as a CDFI. It was absolutely important to have that native serving CDFI in Oregon that also sits in this unique space of the economic development districts representing the tribes as well. And they were able to be the organization and the community lending organization that is able to distribute state dollars to our small businesses and hopefully our tribal businesses as small businesses. One thing I wouldn't understate is our ability to provide collective advocacy at both the city and state level here in Oregon. In my role as the executive director for the Oregon Native American Chamber, as well as my role bringing together culturally serving community chambers. Basically, this is a Native-led effort where we facilitated and developed a coalition of several culturally specific community chambers into a coalition and use that voice and collective advocacy that resulted in the allocation of $10 million specifically to underrepresented and minority communities as a financial response to COVID. Additionally, $3 million more dollars have been allocated for technical assistance, specific, not just to Native, but to Native, Black, Indigenous, and POC businesses. And right now, we're still in the process of advocating for, and we have a strong sense that an additional $25 million from the state. Now, this is CARES Act funding coming through the state, allocated through the state, of another $25 million. So I think I just want to hold up the fact that one of the things that sets Oregon apart is that we are able to kind of move quickly and work with our partners at the state level to ensure that there was an equitable response and that our hardest hit communities had a response from the state that was much needed. Another thing I would add to that is a lot of that was done through the coalition building. So, you know, not only do I co-chair the Community Chamber Coalition of Oregon, but also co-chair the Small Business United, which represents a kind of a larger swath as well. And so, you know, one of the things that we've talked about with Ernie Rasmussen at your NCAID session, Amber, thank you for moderating that, was that it doesn't exist in Washington to that same extent. And so what Dave said earlier about ATNI being a vessel to kind of replicate successful models, I think is going to be critical as we move forward. And so right now, Amber, I think we talked about potentially how do we work together going forward. I know I have an email right now that's going to, you know, with a possible MOU and how we can help kind of with the distribution of the grant funds, because we know ATNI EDC is a CDFI and it's set up for loans. But we really appreciate your willingness and your leadership on this to make sure that we can respond with grant dollars as well to our businesses. So.
Great, thank you, James, and thank you for all of the hard work of ONAC. And I see John George, I know that he's on your board. You know, and I know that your advocacy efforts have made it so that we are able to distribute those funds throughout Oregon. And I think if we are able to replicate the ONAC model in other parts of the ATNI region, I think we'll have a really strong network of being able to support Native-owned small businesses.
Yeah.
Looks like
Yes.
John wants to chime in. Go ahead, John.
Yes, thank you, Amber. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to really thank James and Amber and stuff and the rest of our ONAC board. I think I saw her blog on and so too, and I don't know if Eddie's on, whatever too. But we have a great board at ONAC, and so I know that today I'm wearing so many hats too because I'm also the ATNI third vice president also. And a tribal leader. But I think the important part, I think, is what we looked at is that how ONAC has grown into such a recognizable organization and kind of a more of a, well, like what James says, a leader in how we can connect our chambers. But how we can advocate strongly now for the dollars going out to Indian-owned businesses, and and the networking that we had. I mean, we were just really stepping up. And then like you said, Amber, too, is that then COVID hit, and then it just kind of sets us back, in some way. And and all of us, like I would say, us old schoolers, whatever, having to learn all this new technology and stuff, so that we can actually communicate with each other. And so I just wanted to just give James and our Amber, just a shout out too for their good work that they do on that, and how progressive ONAC has become since I think it's been founded. I think Cheryl Kennedy, our chairwoman, was on one of the founding boards, and helped create ONAC, the board too. And so, I just, and I also just want to shout out to you, Amber, but even the ATNI staff, and I thank Sharon for Sharon's on there for our words and stuff too from ATNI. And I think it's, for us to not forget, about our connections here in the Northwest too, about how we can still continue to network and connect and stuff. And I know we're all such Native people. We're such social people, and and I still miss the hugs and and the face to face, because I think tribally, I think that's how we do business. How I'd rather sit at somebody's table, and have a meal and talk about what we want to do together, and how we partner, and how we share our friendships. And so, but I think I commend the ATNI board and our ATNI staff, Terry and James, and as a for helping us get this conference going forward and stuff too. I'm very proud of them, and we just don't want to forget our friends, forget our organizations and stuff too, and how we work together. And so, especially as we have tried to get through this, these uncertain times, as we say, and and how we got to make decisions now and follow what the governor is saying in our state, and and I think that we also have to realize how we can protect each other, and where we can stay healthy, and and still continue and trying to thrive in our tribal businesses and in our own tribes, and and what we're having to do. So I commend everybody, and I raise my hands to each and every one of you to do that. So Hayumasi.
Thank you, John. Yeah, and I'm a little remiss that I did see Herb pop on, and I didn't note him as a ONAC board member, and I should have. He was my former boss, so sorry about that, Herb.
But no problem. Everybody sit down.
Yeah, and if there were people that did sign on a little bit later, we were asking people to just put their name and their organization into the chat box, just so that we have a record of attendees. So if you haven't done that yet, please do. And we're still, we still have about 35 minutes. I don't think we have to use all that time if we don't want to. But if there is anything on anyone's mind that you just want to bring forward for a discussion, or to just get something off your chest, or to talk about how the pandemic has affected you personally, or your community, or your business, this is a good time to bring that forward.
Well, this is Antone again. I just want to comment on all the good work that has been done in the urban area, particularly Portland, with Select Tribe and their building of housing or apartments. I think that's really a huge accomplishment. And I also want to, I think, have the ATNI understand when we talk about win-win, what we're talking about is working with the community, and I think that's what the chamber is talking about too. That they're able to work with other interests in their areas. Like Umatilla tribe could not be where it is today without the whole community helping there. That's a big deal, and that's why I'm thinking too that ultimately the tribes will get win-win or attain justice, restore or get justice for their treaty rights over the long run. We'll get it back, but then everybody will get a win-win on that. But we got to be thinking, looking down the road, down to the future, and see where we're going and how we're going to get there. That's all.
Thank you, Anton. Is there anything else that folks want to bring forward?
Amber, this is Danae. I just wanted to make mention of one more resource. I'll put it in the chat window, but ITDRC has been doing, they have a one simple page application, and they've been doing COVID response for setting up emergency communications. So if anybody is interested in that resource, they come, it's for free, you don't put any money up, and they send resources to you to stand up a network for communications. And they have a, it's primarily for education, but they'll do any kind of internet, Wi-Fi hotspots, anything like that. And they've been a really great resource, and they've helped a lot of tribes in Washington State specifically through an agreement with WSU. And but they are a phenomenal resource, and they come in and do all of your networking, all of the engineering. You may have some hardware costs, but a lot of that, even that, they get donated. And so ITDRC, I'll put it in the chat box, but they are a really great resource.
Sounds like a really great resource, and one that everybody should know about. I know that there's a lot of tribal communities that are having troubles with connecting, and that's become so important, especially not just for remote working, but especially for remote learning. You know, our students need to be able to access the internet in their homes and their communities more than ever. So thank you. Yeah, please do post that in the chat box today. Anything else? Any other resources that would be good to let folks know about? It looks like I just saw Henry pop up, but then he went away. I see Henry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hey, Henry, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, I apologize. I just had a hard time with connectivity this morning.
No worries. I had the same problems earlier.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end of the agenda, and I know there were a lot of folks that joined this meeting just because they wanted to hear the updates from you on taxation. So if you're ready, then we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Okay. So again, Henry Kagi with the chairman of the tax committee, and also on the business council. And we wanted to thank you all for coming and listening. And as far as the tax update goes, is that what's been happening for this year, as we've had 2 sessions with the Treasury Department on the work committees that we're sitting on. I happen to sit on the dual tax committee, and then we have a general welfare committee, and those 2 are underway. The dual tax committee that we've been working on with Treasury has been making a lot of progress. We have a pretty good outline of what our recommendations are going to be. And as you know, this dual taxation has been a long-standing problem. You know, we're watching the tribes struggle with the jurisdiction of state inclusion of all our activities on the reservation. So we've been working very hard to kind of get a better understanding of what we need to do better. A lot of it's the court cases that we have to look at, but a lot of it we think there's some administrative fixes that could happen. So the dual tax committee, I think it's kind of a two-prong strategy. One is that we look at a legislative fix on dual taxation, and that's still underway and being developed. We think that it may take better shape if we get a different administration coming up in November. And we're hoping and crossing our fingers that could happen. And the legislative fix, I think, is something that we're working on messaging. And I think one of the strongest messages that we're laying out is the need for economic independence and the need for economic support and generating our own revenue in sustaining our governments and sustaining our economy. So taxation has been a way that the United States has been able to do that, and we feel the tribes should have the same opportunity to do the same. And we think we know the Republican feels that way, but we're not sure on the Democrats. We're kind of unsure on that side of the parties, and we hope that the folks can really understand the importance of supporting our tax economy and building our tax base and tax revenue is what we're going to try to do. On the other front, on general welfare exclusion, as you know, Ron Allen heads that committee up, and his committee has been doing a very good job in looking at the work that needs to finish with the general welfare. Is one, the big one is going to be the lavish and extravagant, and that one, as you know, is challenging because the IRS really wants to challenge the tribes in defining what that means. So we're pushing very hard to have the IRS recognize that we should be defining our own lavish and extravagant standards. And we don't want the IRS defining what that means because each region is different, each tribe is different, and each tribe has a way to measure their wealth with their own people. It shouldn't be the IRS or the United States. That's the big one. And so that work is happening. The other part we're working on, as you know, is that Jewel James and the Lummi have been working on the exemptions for artists and arts and crafts for the General Welfare Committee. So we're pushing very hard to get all the artwork, all the things that our people do with the income that they would get from their selling of their goods. So that work is still happening. And the definitions are coming. And we want the people that are following this is going to be patient. It's going to take some time. And those things are taking a long time to fix. But as you understand, it took us 10 years to get here. And we hope it's not going to take us 10 years to fix. So we're hoping that we can get some things moving very soon on the tax committee. And on the state front, as you know, that the state of Washington is taking on the dual taxation activity through Tulalip. And if you're following that, with what's happening is that the state has now framed up a set of standards and policies and things that they're going to look at negotiating a contract with the tribes. We haven't seen the Tulalip agreement yet and what kind of template they've created. And so we're patiently waiting for that to happen. And as that's happening, the tribes are kind of getting ready to file for the negotiation of the process to begin. And it sounds like the state wants to really begin to get this thing buttoned up by September, October is what we're hearing. But I think our first meeting is going to be coming up very soon on the state issues. The Lummi Nation is really looking hard on some of the things that the state has put forward. You know, we don't agree with some of them. We agree with a lot of them, but not all of them. And we feel that the state has really failed to recognize the tribe's taxing authority, what we can do on our reservation. So we got a position that we're putting forward. We won't disclose it until we're ready, but we will let tribes know that want to look at the Lummi position. We will get that out and share with you what we think on the state process on negotiation for tax compacting. Okay, that's quite a bit already. And other than that, the NCI task force is that we're going to be working on some ways to frame up an economic agenda for Fawn Sharp and her team at the national level. And phase 4, as you know, is coming. We won't see any really movement until probably close to the end of July, which is this month now. So we're hoping that we're going to see some changes coming on for phase 4. And if we do expect anything to happen, we want to include economic development. We want to include some ways to rebuild and generate revenue for the tribes in the Indian country. So we're working on language that would allow the Congress to support tribes that want to create an economic agenda and start freeing up our hands and freeing up what we need to do better and rebuilding our own economy. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Henry, this is Sharon. I have a question about the payments that were made to individual members with the CARES Act money. Do you know if those are going to be taxable by IRS, or have they been categorized as PWE?
No, they should be under general welfare exclusion. So if you're thinking of doing that distribution for your people, I would really recommend you look at the General Welfare Exclusion Act and frame it up for social services. And any disbursement that you guys are making, you should be using that law that was passed 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're finding a lot of tribes that are not understanding that whole law and the advantages that it really brings. And I'm not sure how we want to frame this up, but I think we need some kind of page or some kind of workshop that describes that, because my cousin just came up from California and his tribe is still paying taxes on their per capita. He gets like 10,000 a month, but they're taking out taxes on his per capita. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that and hearing a lot of tribes that don't understand that Welfare Exclusion Act brings a lot of exemptions for our people. So I'm not sure how we want to think about that, but I'll talk to Rob Porter, our lobbyist, and see if we could think of something that can do a better job in educating our CFOs, our accountants, our CPAs, and our general managers seem to get stuck on the old way of doing business. And that's kind of where I see we're at, is that we're still thinking the old way, and this general welfare has been the new way for a while, but people just need to adjust to that thinking.
Yeah, I think kind of a reorientation or additional information reminding folks that if and when they give out payments, they should pattern it in a way where the tribal member doesn't get dinged with the tax at the end of the year for it.
Yes.
Hey,
So
Henry,
we want to think about that.
Hey, Henry, this is Phil Haryu from Cowlitz. I'm glad you made it on. I always want to hear your great words of wisdom. Please keep up your good work. And Sharon, I think the executive board, I know you guys are busier than heck, but ATNI should put on a general welfare exclusion, like I said, a face page and maybe a little, at some point when we get the chance, just get everyone together and we've got a lot of lawyers working on this. We've got a lot of tribes that are doing it, and get everybody on the same page so that this general welfare exclusion, and my hope is that tribes will never pay per capitas again. So.
I think that's a great idea. And James Parker, if you're still on the call or in the meeting, that might be a notation to make of trying to schedule a group discussion about this, and the people that are in the throes like Henry and Phil and other tribes that have the attorneys working for you, that would be someone to coordinate. That would be great.
Absolutely. Good point, Sharon. I know tomorrow's session is supposed to be a tribal leaders roundtable, and while there are some agenda items, I think topics like these absolutely should come up, and we should find venues and forums to kind of keep it continued.
Right, good, thank you.
Okay, so that's all I got for the committee. And I want to thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much, Henry. Really glad you were able to join us. We are getting towards the end of our time. Is there any closing thoughts anybody wants to impart on us?
Hey, I do got a question about the EDA money, that the competitive money, the 1.5 billion. Is that shared on this agenda or in this session?
No, we haven't talked about the EDA money. I know that the NOFA for their competitive funds came out a while ago, like a month maybe.
Yes.
And then they also sent out invitations for non-compete dollars for folks that were already in their program. So I know a lot of tribes have their comprehensive economic development strategies. I think the tribes should have gotten an invitation to submit non-compete grant applications to continue that planning to respond to COVID. I know we got an invitation for that. ATNI EDC did. So I'm hoping that everyone else that is a planning partnership recipient has also gotten that same invitation. But no, I didn't think to invite EDA to this meeting. That would have been a really good idea.
So I would recommend, Sharon, that we get something out to the tribes on the EDA opportunity. And the Lummies had a good relationship with EDA over the years, but they're offering $150,000 for planning money right now. That anybody that has a SEDS, and I think that deadline may be passed. But alongside of that is the 1.5 billion that the EDA has to disperse. So basically, what that means is as we see it, it's any shovel-ready project. So things that could be done right away, things that could be brought in for the tribe for economic development. It can do a lot of things for the tribes if tribes are understanding what that process is. So, we've been very successful in EDA, and I would like to make sure that the tribes understand that this is probably a one-shot deal that we'll see in EDA for a while. So we should take advantage as much as we can while we can.
Amber, are you reporting tomorrow to the Tribal Leader Roundtable?
I'm not on the agenda.
Oh, okay, because some of these are really important, and I know you've been keeping your pulse on the EDA because EDC's been involved with a lot of that, and I know Dave is up to speed on it. So is there something that we can put together to give a notice to tribes? Take a few minutes to announce it or something tomorrow?
I can put something together and at least give it to you, Sharon. If I'm not able to get on, then you'd have it to be able to announce.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it for me, Sharon.
This is John, John George.
Hi, John.
Sorry, I want to apologize and everything, but also I'd ask for prayers for our chairwoman. I just got a call from one of our other councilwoman, Lisa Lino, and our chairwoman had just got hit in an accident on the way to work here. And so I'm going to go with our chief of staff and go check on her in there. So if you guys just keep her in her prayers. She said, Lisa said everything's okay. She's everything, but she did get hit on the driver's side and stuff too. So we're going to try to have her go to the hospital and get checked and stuff too. So I'm going to go ahead and drop off and go check on her.
Give her our best and prayers, John.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. So, all righty. Take care, everyone.
Well, I think that it sounds like the energy of this committee is kind of starting to slow down. I'm wondering if, Anton, do you have any parting words for us, things for us to think about as we go on with our day?
I think that these meetings are important because we have to understand where we're at and how we're dealing with the pandemic, and that we stay with our goals and our schedules and continue to take care of our people. So I just want to thank you all for your hard work and consideration for your people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Anton. And I think with that, the ATNI Economic Development Committee meeting virtual session is over. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and I hope that you enjoy the other committee sessions throughout the day.
Amber, real quick, where do we find those? I'm on my registration. I'm not seeing those links so clearly. Could be just
so they actually, here, I'm going to pull it over since I think my screen's still being shared. There's a website that they set up, and you have to go to the website. It looks like this.
Okay, got it.
So right here, I'm going to highlight it. Here's the General Assembly links, and then if you scroll down, it has the committee with the links over here. So if you registered, then ATNI sent an email with how to get to this website.
Okay.
Click over here, and then I think tomorrow, then they have the other sessions tomorrow, a little bit further down on the agenda.
Super duper, thank you.
And let me just hop in, Dave. So just to let you know, you'll need the link to this. It's not on our main web page. The idea was to have people register and be able to access this page. So feel free to email me if you can't find your link, and I'm happy to share it out with you.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, I can put it in the chat box right now.
James, I put it in the chat box already.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Cleora.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, everybody. Really nice to see you.
Yes, everyone be safe.
Thank you for your participation, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.